Hello everybody! I am going to be going over how to create a procedural house here. And let's kind of go over some of the stuff that I have, and we're going to do it slightly different, but we're going to get the general idea of this house. So if I go and adjust the width, we should be able to see that the house changes in width, maybe 5, 10, anything like that. We can adjust the height, the depth, so if we wanted a longer house, we can do that as well. We could add more windows, and you can see that the tiling is changing and adapting and things like that as we create more. And yeah, that's what we're going to be doing in this live stream today. So I hope you guys get a lot out of it. Let's go in and create a new scene so that we can start from scratch. Discard a new, and then let's just save this so that way I can save it quickly as we build. There we go. I'm going to start off by creating a geometry node. And we'll name this geometry node house. I'm going to also try to make this into a digital asset. So let's create that a setting over here so that way we can adjust some of the settings rather than having to do it all in the node. So we're going to go to Edit Parameter Interface. And here we got a bunch of stuff going on. These are the default folders that you have. The folders are basically creating the tabs that we have along the top here. So I'm going to create another folder, throw it over here. Let's put it on top. The folder name, let's do house settings. There we go. And the name is basically the label. If we want to access it with code, this is the name that we're going to be referencing here. So house settings. There we go. And apply. When we do that, we have the house settings tab, and we can add things in there as we go along. What I also want to do is let's split this. We want to split right left. This will give us 2 panels here. Let me give myself a little bit more room. And what I'm going to do is pin this one in place. That will allow us to be able to get easy access to these settings without having to keep on coming out to the outside geometry level. Hi Chandra, how are you doing today? I hope you're doing well. Going into the house, and I'm going to start off by creating some lines that will give us the basic parameters that we're going to be using to drive a lot of this. Do I want to do the line? Yeah, I built the lines in the example that I did when I was testing everything out. The other thing we can do is actually build a setting over here. Let's create less nodes and just create the setting straight out of the gate here. So I'm going to go to Edit Interface, Edit Parameter Interface, and I'm going to set up a float value. And it's going to go into the house. Let me minimize all this. We can actually, for right now, just to make things easier, I'm going to make them invisible so that way we can get to these settings a lot quicker. And then later when we need to, we can show invisible and then bring it back. Float. There we go. And then I'm going to need 3 of them. So I'll add 3 of them right away. And label, it's going to be width, height, and depth. Let's do a lowercase w. Okay, and then just like before, we have this parameter here that it's going to actually be the name of it when we're referencing it. Oh, thank you, Chandra. I'm glad you're doing well. Thank you for stopping by. Okay, so I'm going to call this house width, house height, and these parameter names can't have spaces. So house height and house depth. There we go. So we can access all of those. We can also set limits to everything in the default value as well. Let's apply everything really quick. And basically we can adjust the range, and then also we have the channel data over here. So the default value, and obviously with these settings, we don't want it to start off at 0 because then there is no actual dimensions to the house when we create the default. Oh, no problem, James. I am glad to help always. I am glad you are getting a lot from these tutorials. I appreciate all the comments as well. Okay, so width, height, depth. So I'm going to say, I don't know, and the door is what, like 8 feet. The room is about 10 feet tall. I'm just going to say 10 feet for a house on the width. On the height, just for the first floor. So it's approximately 3.3 meters. And I'm going to set that as the default. The width, let's say it is 4 meters. And the depth is we'll set it at 5. And this is obviously a tiny house, but it's just settings to start off with. And then if we wanted to, we can do a range and set limits. Right now, I'm not going to do that just because I don't know necessarily where the limits are. And a lot of times it's kind of nice to be able to push it to an extreme if you needed to. Okay, so we have those settings, and we can see they pop up over here now that we've created them. So let's take a look at creating some paneling for the house. I'm going to create a box. And this is going to be a panel. And for the height on this, which is going to be the Y, let's say it's like about 0.3, so like a foot tall. Then we have the width, so we'll make these the front paneling, which will be along the X. And what was it? 4. Can we reset this? Let's see. Revert to defaults. Control middle mouse button. Okay. 3.3 and 5. There we go. Will this be available after the broadcast? I want to try this later and have more time. Yes, absolutely. It will be available afterwards. I actually recorded this initially, and it was a really long tutorial, and there were some changes I wanted to make, and I didn't want to re-record everything, so I'm doing it live, and hopefully it gives the opportunity for people to ask questions as I go along. But also, I figured it'd be a better tutorial if I redid it all, and I don't get much of a chance to be able to talk to all of you guys, so it's nice to be able to do it live this time around. Okay, and then the X will make it copied basically off of this parameter. So I'm going to right click with the width, copy parameter, and then over here for the size on the X, I'm going to paste relative reference. There we go, so it's that long. And then here we can do the board width. So let's do like maybe 0.1, 0.05. Oops, I added 2 points, so let's get rid of one of those, and then I'm going to right click and delete channels, 0.05, there we go. So that can be kind of the starting pace for the boards, and we can see that now as we change this, we actually change the width of the house. There we go. I want it to also start on top of the ground. I don't want it to be right kind of halfway. So we can take whatever the value is in the Y. So I'm going to copy this parameter. And on the center, I'm going to paste relative reference, which will get us part of the way there. Paste relative reference, enter, and we can see basically that's like half too much. So we can multiply by 0.5, which is half. And it will be right on the ground. And as we change this value, if we wanted to change it, it will always stay on the ground. Okay. And that's going to be the start of our panel for the front of the house. We got the height for the first floor, or the main body of the house. So I want to basically be able to duplicate this to end up equaling this in meters. So I'm going to go in and create a copy node. So we can do a copy stamp or a copy and transform. A copy stamp is nice because we can add variation to it later on if we wanted to. The copy and transform is a little bit easier. We're going to kind of do a basic house and get the foundation of it, because the whole process of making this procedural can take a while. So we're going to try to keep it as simple as possible this time around. Okay, so we're making a copy, and basically I want to move it up however tall this is in units. So we can go to the panel. We know this is the height, so I'm going to copy parameter. And over here, I'm going to paste relative reference, push enter. And if we display that, we should see that it pops up there. Ooh, a few new people. We have Carry On Dev. Hello. And then I'm going to add a transform here in between, and I'm just going to add a little bit of rotation. So I'm going to rotate it. I think that's on the X. Let's see. Yep. So I'm going to maybe like a very small amount, just so that way there's a little bit of an offset as we're creating them. It's essentially the same height. It's just gives it a little bit of a nicer look. Hi, Kay. I hope you're doing well. We are building a 3D house today. Okay, so right now we have it just making 2 copies, which doesn't get us to the 3.3 meters. Each unit inside of Houdini is a meter. So we need to make sure that this duplicates equal to the height value that we have here. So let's copy this, and I'm going to paste relative reference here. Paste relative reference, And that will kind of do it, but this is obviously not 3 meters. If we look at it in the front view port, so I just push space and 3, that gives us to the front viewport. We're almost at 1 unit. And that is because the panel itself is 0.3 units tall. So we need to take that into account in the expression when we make the total number of panels. So we're going to multiply that by 1 divided by, and I didn't copy the value, so let's go back here and copy this parameter. And we will paste relative reference and close the parentheses. And that should give us the height, and we can double check that looking in the front viewport. We can see 1, 2, 3, and a third. So we've created this. It's not going to be exactly like 100% precise because we're working with whole numbers, and the height here can potentially be like a fraction of an amount. So that's something that we will get a little bit of a gap potentially, but we can add some framing that will close up that gap no matter what. Okay, so now that we have that, let's repeat this process and make it go along the depth, because we have that value for the depth. We already took the width and the height into account. And later on when we do the copying for the side, we can adapt that, and we can copy this copy node here. Sorry, Kieran, Dev, that your audio seems to be muted. Trying to, I don't know what to tell you. It seems like other people can hear me. Okay. So let's take this, and I'm going to copy. We can probably like modify this and make this a different version, but I am just going to like modifying this same one, but I'm just going to create a new one to keep it simple. Let's delete channels here. This is going to be the 0.05, which is what we made the width for before. Let's merge everything so that we can see it. Putting them together here. Merge, I'm crossing the wires, so let's put it on this side. And this is going to be the side panels. And this is the front panels. I'm keeping it named because there's going to be a lot of nodes in this one, so if I ever need to access it, which likely I will in the future, I can update it. Okay, so I have the side panels. Right now you can see they're really tiny, but we will fix that in a moment. I want to make sure that they are copied over. So I just did a Control-C, Control-V to make another copy, pushing Y to cut it, and then I'm going to stick it right there. And we should see that we get them created all the way along the height. We're going to need a transform that is similar to the one that we had here. So let's cut that and connect it here. Right now it's rotating in the wrong angle because we want it to rotate to be along the side axis rather than the front axis. So let's adjust that. So rotate, we have that on the X. I believe it's going to be in the Z now. So let's copy that over there. And that looks right. Yep. Okay. So now I also need to move it over to the side over here. So we can base that off of the width. Let's copy this parameter. Copy parameter, and then let's move that in the X. So if we want it to be on this side, the left-hand side of this screen house that we're looking at, we can paste that here, paste relative reference, but we need to make sure that that is negative because that's moving in the negative direction. And it's moved double the amount that we needed, so all we got to do is multiply it by half. So times 0.5. And there we go. It's positioned right on the side there. And now we can just make sure that it is the right width. So the depth is going to be how long these panels are. Let's copy this parameter and go back to this box. And in the Z, we can paste relative reference. That gives us the width of the house. That is great. So now we just need to move it back in the Z direction. So that is going to be based off of the depth, sorry. Copy parameter. And we're moving it in the Z here. So let's paste relative reference. And this is going to be in the negative direction, so let's make that negative. And then, like with other things that we've done, we need to multiply it by 0.5. There you go. So that lines up for us. We have two sides. Now the opposite side is going to be very similar to what we have here. So I'm going to keep this one because that's going to be the same settings here. I'm just going to copy these two. Actually, I don't even need to do the extra copy. We can do a merge node and bring them together. But this one is going to need to be changed. Let's make this positive. And let's merge these really quick. So I'm going to create a merge between these two and then put it into the copy node. And we can see that we got the other side. The only thing is that the rotations are going in the wrong direction. So here we can make this a positive, and then we should be fine. Okay. So now I have the front, and I'm going to need to make sure that we have a back version of the panels. So I'm going to do a similar trick as what I did here. So I'm going to copy and paste that there. Create another merge node. And then put them over that way. This one, we're going to move back into Z. So I'm going to copy the depth, copy parameter, and in the Z, we're going to make it negative that value. Paste relative reference. Oops, I have a 0. Should have been a negative. Let's try that again. There we go. Put it in the right place. And then the rotations are off from what we need. So let's make that positive. And then that's all fixed. Great. Okay, so we have the kind of foundation box level of the house. We're going to need to add windows, we're going to need to add roof and stuff like that, but I want to create the overall silhouette because that's the more technical part, I feel like, is creating this triangle, because we need to do a little bit of math to create it and make it look right. So let me organize this a tiny bit, so that way I can follow along where I am in the future. There we go. Okay, so now I need to create another setting to figure out how tall this part is from the baseline of the house, and the part that becomes the peak where it's trying to create a triangle. Okay, so I'm going to create a new variable, edit parameter interface, and we're going to add another float. It's going to go inside of the house settings, and this one's going to be, we'll call it roof height. And then we'll add roof height. There we go. And under channels, I'm going to add, let's make this maybe 3 meters for the default value. And then I'm not going to do any range. Let's apply that. We have the roof height there. Perfect. Now I'm going to go into the copy nodes that we have here. Actually, is there anything different between these two? I don't believe so. So let's get rid of one of these to simplify it a little bit. We'll take this merge and make sure that it merges here. And I'm going to push Y, cut these, and connect it here. There we go. It's a little bit cleaner, so that way we can see what's happening, because we don't need multiple copy nodes if it's going to be doing exactly the same thing. Okay, so in the copy node, I have the house height, but I want to be able to add the roof height as well. So I'm going to say, I'm going to add, and then let's copy this parameter. And then after the plus sign here, paste relative reference. There you go. So it adds a little bit more, but in that section is basically we're going to be tapering it off and making it a peak rather than being a boxed off building. Okay. Now, the way we're going to achieve that in this example, we're going to make a box, and that box is going to be used to Boolean out that shape there. And then we'll make sure that it changes its angle depending on the angle of the height of this roof height section. So let's take a look at doing that. We're going to create a box, and let's call this roof shape. And let's visualize that there. So I know that the depth, so the Z is going to need to be the depth of the house. So let's copy this parameter and take the Z value here, paste relative reference. Shimnu Yang, hello, welcome. I'm glad you are enjoying the stream. Okay, so that gives us the depth of the house, and then let's take this, copy this parameter, paste it in the center, then multiply it by 0.5. And this will need to be negative because we want it to go in the other direction. We also want to take the height and do the same thing so that it's on top of the ground plane. So let's copy parameter, paste a relative reference, and then multiply by 0.5. There we go. And then just so that we can get exactly on a corner, I'm going to shift it. It can be either side. I'm just going to shift it negative. So we need to take the x value, copy that parameter, paste relative reference, and multiply that by 0.5. Oops, and it's going to be negative. There you go. So that gives us the object in the right depth. We still don't have the right height or the length, but we'll need to make some calculations to make sure that works. Let's do a Boolean. And I'm going to connect it A here, and the roof, let's put it on this side, and we're going to subtract that. So looking at here, the default set the Boolean is set to intersect. We want to subtract. So basically it's going to take out that section. Right now, because we did a little bit of rotation on it, it's going to be sticking out. We can take the depth and add more to it. So let's do like, and it really doesn't matter how long it is. So I'm just going to take the depth value here and multiply it by 1.5. So it is, however long it is, it's going to be just kind of longer. So that put it past on that side, which is great. But we need to make sure that it happens on the front side as well. So that means that we need to add like some of this back into it. I'm just going to put a value for right now. If we need to change it in the future, we can. But that should give us a hole all the way through. But we want to put that on the top, and we're going to trim off the peak of the house. So I need to move it all the way up to the top, and we're going to do that with the transform now. And this transform, we want to make sure that it goes up however tall this is, and then however tall the roof is. So let's copy this parameter, move it up in the Y, paste relative reference, paste relative reference, there we go. So that gets us part of the way. Let's copy this parameter and add, oops, paste relative reference. So looking at that, it looks like the number of copies is not quite doing what we want it to. So the roof height and the house height, we're adding both of those together. Oops, what did I do? Let's make this a little bit bigger so that we can see the expression. I just push Control B, and that makes that panel full screen. We have the channel of the house height plus that. Let's put this all inside of parentheses. That's probably what we got to do. And then Control B. There we go. That sets up the height exactly the way we need it. So if we were to rotate this on the, I believe it's the Z-axis, we should see that it is coming down. Let's put this at 45 degrees. And if we had this at 3.3, 45 degrees is actually the right size of house that we want. So the X, and we were to extrude that. We're going to make these values procedural, but I just want to kind of show you exactly what we are trying to attempt is to be able to get this part cut off. And then we'll end up mirroring it over to the other side. Okay, so that is the effect that we want. We just need to make sure that these two values are procedural. And basically we know the length here and the height here. So we want to make sure we can use the Pythagorean theorem basically, where it's a squared plus b squared equals c squared. C squared is the hypotenuse, which is this line here. And right now we are working with a right angle triangle. So that's what we're going to do. We want basically the square root of a squared plus b squared, and that will give us that value there. And the first value is going to be half of the width. So let's copy this parameter here. And I'll put it here. Paste relative reference. And then times 0.5, and all of that's going to be in parentheses. So that gives us part of the way. We just need to take into account the height here. So let's copy this parameter for the roof height. So we're going to say plus paste relative reference. So let's template this so that you guys can see what is going on here. We have a box. It's obviously too big here, but it gives us a starting point to work from. I mean, it really doesn't matter if we just kept it at this size. It would always work out, but I want to make sure that it's much cleaner than that. So we need the square root of this. I mean, not the square root, but the square value of this. So we can put the caret, which is shift 6 on the keyboard, 2. And then let's put this in parentheses here. And then this one here, we're also going to square. So let's put this in parentheses and go to the end. Square. So that makes it quite a bit bigger. And, oops, wrong one. This is the one we want. We want the square root of this. So SQRT is the command inside of Houdini. Square root of all of this. So we got to put the whole thing inside of parentheses. And that should give us the value. Square root of a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And as we adjust this, this should adapt. The only thing is that we haven't taken into account the angle. So as this actually changes, we should see that angle change. So we need to change for that. So 3.3. That's the next thing we need to calculate for, so that way the angle is correct for whatever we're doing, we're just putting a number here, but if this changes, it should change with the height, and that's what we need next, so that way we can get the correct values on here. And because we know the height and the width and the length, we can actually use some trigonometry to be able to figure this out. Basically, if we want to figure out this angle, we can do the opposite divided by the adjacent angle, and we're going to get the inverse tangent of that, and that should be the angle here. And there's an expression inside of Houdini, so we don't need to figure out what the inverse tangent is. We just need to know that it works that way. So I'm going to go A tan, which is the inverse tangent or the arctangent of the triangle, is the opposite, which is this one, which is the width. Copy parameter. Oops. Paste relative reference. Divided by, or actually let's multiply it by 0.5 first because it's only half. And all that has to be in parentheses because we're going to divide that by the roof height. And we will copy parameter, paste relative reference, and close the parentheses, enter. And that should give us a value. That is giving us kind of the value. It's giving us the opposite value of what we need. Let's say we take all of this as 180 minus whatever that is. Oops, that's too much. Plus, well, that gives us it on the opposite side, which might be okay. And you can see as we change it, we can get the values to adapt and change. It does kind of crop off again because, like I said, there's that slight offset because we're working with whole numbers, but we can potentially get decimal numbers here. So we can adjust slightly for that, so that way it works out properly. We can take the center in the X and let's add 0.5. Oops. That's not what I wanted. Let's try the Z then. No, not the Z. The Y. Add 0.5. So that moved in the wrong direction. We want negative. There we go. That crops it off completely. And as we change the roof height, I'm not sure what a hip roof is. Can you explain that? Maybe I can figure it out. Oops. I don't need to adjust that, but yeah, as we adjust this, it should adjust the house. Oops. And then we just need the reverse of this, and then we can merge them together so that way we get the other side of the house. So I'm going to copy and paste this. Actually, let's not copy and paste that. Let's do another transform off of that transform, and then I'm going to scale it -1 in X, and that should basically give us the other side. I'm going to reverse the normals, and then let's create a merge node. And these will be connected there, and then this goes into the Boolean. Should display it, and then we got both sides of the house there. Oh, a slope on 4 sides? Yeah, I believe it basically you'd have to just do a similar process to this, where we're getting the angle for everything, and then you would do it on the z-axis here rather than just on the x-axis. So if you did want to do a hip style roof, you would repeat this where you're actually doing it twice, and then you'll have this angle where you can create things onto. Okay, so we have the overall shape of the house now. Let's add some holes for the window. Since we're booleaning things here, we can boolean some more at the same time. That way we're not booleaning multiple times. We can just add things onto this merge node here. So let's create a box, and that's basically going to be the door. And we're going to take the y, copy parameter, paste relative reference, and multiply by 0.5. That should give us the area for the door. Let's say the door is like 2.5 approximately. No, 1.5. There we go. I don't know, all these settings can be changed. Let's add another parameter here, and here I'm going to call it door height, and we can link that directly there. So we're going to add a float, and that's going to go into the house. This is going to be called door height, and be door height. There we go. So we have the door height now, and oops, I closed it without setting it. Let's do that again. Put it in here, put that in there. This is door height. And we have door height. Under channels, I'm going to say 1.5. It's going to be the default for this parameter. And we'll apply, accept. And then we're going to copy this parameter and paste relative reference here. So as we change this, we should have different sized doors. Okay, let's look at adding some windows along the side of the house. So for this, I'm actually going to create some lines because I want, and let's call this front door. Okay, So I want to be able to create multiple, and as it changes in size, we can add more windows, and we can have a setting to actually tell us how many windows we want in there, and we can adjust the size of the windows and things like that. So we can do that. Let's create a box, and this is going to be our side windows. And then we need a line. So actually, let me cut this, pushing Y, cutting the thing there, and then let's do a line. And the line, I want it to be pointing in the negative Z direction. So this is going to be 0 and then -1 on Z. And let's merge this in here so that we can kind of see we have this line right here. That's what we're creating. We can template this so that way we can see it, although it's right on the axis. Okay, so the depth is going to be equal to the length. So let's copy this parameter. Copy parameter, paste relative reference, enter. So we should see that it is the length of it and it's not going past. That's good. And then this is going to be house depth. And the number of points here, it's going to be like 2. It's going to equal the number of windows minus 2 because we don't need windows right on the edges. Okay, and then let's do a copy 2 points. So we have 2 inputs that we need. We need the primitives to copy, and we need the points to copy too. And then let's disconnect that from the merge. Let's just visualize this and we can see what's going on. And right now, basically, let's add more points to this line. We'll go to 4, so that way we have 2 windows to start off with. Hi, David. Nice to see you here. Okay, so we're going to start off with that. Let's create a group. I don't need a standard group, sorry. We need a group by range. And I'm going to take the group to start and end 1 in. So basically it takes away the first and last points. Create windows group. So create WinGRP for group. And then now we have to set the group type to points instead of primitives. And for the target points, it's not showing the group, the source group. Make sure that we have everything set correctly here. Oh, we created the group on the wrong side. It has to go on the lines. So I just shook it off to detach it. And this group is going to be created on the lines here. Now, inside of this group, we should have the group. Yep, create window group. And now we get the 2 that we wanted. And we can, I don't have a parameter here, but we can add that in a minute. But if we go into the line, basically, the more we add, so if we had 3, we only get 1. If we have 4, we get 2. So it's whatever number we have here minus 2. So we can create some parameters to be able to do that there. Let's look at this here. And the windows are in the center. So if we were to template this group here instead, we can see in the center. That's why they're not booleaning anything out, but we'll move it in a moment. So let's visualize this over here. And let's create some parameters. Yeah, live Houdini is definitely a minefield. I've already done this one, though, like over the weekend. It ended up being like a 6-hour tutorial, and I'm like, I could do better than that. So I decided just to try it live. Okay, so this is going to be the number of windows. Number of windows. Num of windows. There we go. And let's set the default to 1. And we'll accept that. And then copy this parameter. And here we can paste relative reference. And like I said, we need to add 2 because it's going to be whatever this number is on the number of windows. Minus 2 for the normal total points, but we're adding it when we need to create it. So there we go. So as we change this, we get more or less windows. Okay, now let's move this into place. We need a transform. And the transform, we're going to move it based off of the width. So copy parameter, paste relative reference. It's going to be negative, and we're going to multiply it by 0.5. So that should shift it over right where we need it. You can see that it's doing that there. And now we need to figure out the height so we can actually get the things in the right place. The default that might be the easiest is just to take the height and divide it by 2 and then have an offset so that you can put it up and down. But that doesn't give us any opportunity to create multiple floors or multiple stacks of windows and things like that. So we're going to add a little bit more functionality where we can actually do like multiple windows if we make a really tall house so that we can add more floors onto here. Okay, so we're going to create another line. And this line is going to be the house height. And let's template this so that we can see it. We got it right there. We just need to copy the height of the house. Copy parameter. And paste it for the length. Paste relative reference. So now if we look at it, it should go right up to the edge of the house there, which is exactly what we want. And then basically we want to take the same value that we have here. So I don't need to do all of that all over again. I can just take the, let's add a, actually let's not add it there. Let's put it here. And if we look at it in wireframe, it should be like right here. You can kind of see it. Let's just visualize this here. You can see that, yeah, it's right there on the corner. Okay. And let's visualize this here. Oops. I don't need to visualize it down there, but so now we need another variable like stacks of windows, and we'll put that into the points just like we did in the previous one. So let's go into the interface, add another parameter, put it into the house. This is going to be a default of 1 under the parameters. Number of windows up. Invert windows. So vertical windows, number of vertical windows. And I should do number of windows up. There we go. So we have a value. We did set a default, I believe. Yep. And accept. There we go. And then we're going to take this value here, copy parameter, paste a relative reference, and add 2 to it. So if we look at this and set up the points, we should see that we have 3 points. And we do. Okay. And then now we just need to do a copy points. And this one is set at the origin. So I'm going to set that up there and then put this into the lines. And we got that correct. We just need to do the group like we did before, so that way we don't get the top and bottom. So I'm creating a group here and we'll rename this so that way it's differentiated from the other one. And then here for the copy, we can set that group, and we can see that we only get that vertical group. Then let's disconnect this and we will paste it there, which means that we should have the windows here. Oops. What is it? There we go. And let's template this because it is slightly off. Nope. It should be Boolean it. So looking at the template here, it is in the right place. They are being created here. Let's visualize this. Nope. They are double offset. So we don't need this transform anymore, because we're already transferring it when we created this line. There we go. And that creates the holes for our windows. And let's create a transform to put it over to the other side as well. So I'm just going to take a transform, and we're going to move it on the X based off of the width of the house. So let's copy that parameter, paste relative reference, and then merge that in. And we should get the windows on the other side, and we do. That is great. So we're getting a lot of the content that we need done here. Let's save this, because I haven't saved this the whole time. Would be a bummer to lose all this work. Okay. So we have the correct information now. And now we just basically need to create the roof and add some geometry for these things here, and we should be pretty close to done. A lot of busy work at this stage, but this is kind of the core of what we need to be able to get the whole house. The rest of it is like basically here for the house. On the top, we're going to create kind of like we did with the line. We're going to get a number of grids, extrude them, create them on a line, and then offset them so that way we can create the roof tiles and then base it off of the rotations that we have for these pieces of geometry that we created. And then we can use the information that we got for making these holes to put the geometry into everything. So as far as calculations are needed, it is pretty much, we have all the information here. Now we just need to be able to add all the details. Uh-oh, on my screen it looks like it paused. Hopefully it didn't pause for everybody else. Put a thumbs up in the chat or say I'm still here if you are. It says the stream health is good on my side. Hopefully you guys are seeing everything. I just see a little spinning wheel when I'm looking at the preview. Roof height. Cool. Okay, so let's start off creating the roofing details. I'm going to basically create a line. I mean, we have this line here, but I want to be able to organize it a little bit. So this, I'm just going to keep this together with all my Boolean stuff. And then I'm going to create another section for my roofing tiles. So let's go ahead and add a line. Actually, let's copy the ones that we have since they are the same thing. The height is going to be modified, but so this is house depth for roof. House height for roof. And then the house height, we just need to make sure that we add the roof height because we're going to need to position things way up here. So let's add copy, paste relative reference. Oops. Just copy parameter, and then we're going to paste it over here. When we add paste relative reference, there we go. So if we visualize this, it should be exactly the height that we need. Let's put this at the origin. So I'm going to delete this channel and set it to 0. So it's going to be right centered. That is great. And then the house depth here, we basically have it already set up the way we need it. That's great. Okay, so we need a grid. The grid is going to be, say, 0.1 and 0.1 for right now. That's going to be the tiles. So we have a very small tile here, maybe like 0.3, 0.3. Just for now, we can change it as we need to. Okay, so we're going to say copy to points. We need the primitives to copy, which is going to be the roof tiles. Let's name this roof tiles. And then we're going to paste that onto the value here. And then let's do another copy to points. Copy. Actually, we don't have what we need yet, because what I want is this angle here. That's what we're going to copy it, but we need to be able to position it on top of this. So let's get that value. I want to create another line. And this is going to be the Pythagorean theorem again. So it's going to be half the width. Copy parameter. Paste relative reference. And then this is going to be multiplied by 0.5. And it's going to be squared. And then we're going to add the roof height. So let's get that value there. Copy parameter. And we are going to add, in parentheses, paste relative reference. And then this is going to be squared. So there we go. And then we need another one. And this is going to be the square root, SQRT. So this is going to be the length of roof. And let's visualize that. We got an error. Let's see what the error is. It's probably with the expression. Unable to evaluate expression. Okay, let's make this bigger so that we can see what's going on. Control B, that brings it all the way big. And we have the square root. So this is, we need one more parentheses to make the expression correct. There we go. Now we have the object in the right length. Let's take the height, so the origin, we need to base it off of the length here. So let's copy parameter and paste relative reference. There we go. And if we look at it here with this templated, we should see that it's right on the top, which it is. And now we need to get the rotation, which we did once up here. Somewhere, roof shape here, transform. Let's try it without the 180 first to see if that works. If not, then we'll add 180. It's basically that inverse tangent expression that we did, a little bit of trig, so that way we can get the angle of it. We need to basically do a transform node. And I believe that's rotating on the Z. So let's try that there. Up, but we moved it up. So let's take this expression for moving it up, remove it from there, delete channels, and we'll make this 0. And then I am going to paste that expression here in the transform. Okay, so that gets us kind of where we need. It's pointing in the wrong direction. Let's see if we adjust this to be -1. There we go. And let's put this as the template and double check it with the house that we have, and we can see that it lines up perfectly. We got the line going right there along the side of the house. Okay. So that's what we're going to use to template these roof tiles onto. So let's do another copy to points. And we need the geometry and the path. Obviously, we still need to make some tweaks, but that is essentially what we're going to be doing with the tiles. And then let's add a merge. Display that, and we can see that the tiles are starting to be right there, right where we need them. We're going to need a lot more of them. We can figure out the actual number of them that we need a little bit later, but we can kind of see basically when we add points onto the length of the roof, that will add more tiles. And when we add more points on the depth, so let's delete this channel and add more points here. We get the rest of the tiles. We probably do want to set some offset values as well, so that way they're not all like lined up like that. So we will do that on alternating rows, but this is kind of generally getting the idea for the tiles. And then obviously we're going to need a rotation here, so that way they are lined up with the roof and whatnot, so that way it's more like that. So let's get some of the settings set. Okay. So for the rotation of the grids, let's figure that out because we already have the, if we look at this, we have the angle that we need. Here in the rotation, we can paste that and let's see if that lines it up correctly. It almost does, it's just in the wrong direction. And let's see if we put a minus in the front, that fixes it. It does. There we go. We have that lined up, and that should be procedural now as we change the height of the roof. So we can change that. Oh, there's something breaking there. We can adjust it in a little bit, but let's not do big values. Let's do here. What's going on? Okay, it flips on us. So we have the default values, it's fine. Oh, okay, I know what's going on. We have the points set up, but on this line, it doesn't have a normal direction, so it doesn't know which way to actually create it as the values change, so it kind of flips back and forth. So we need to create normals for at least this line. We might need more of them, but this is the one that's breaking right now. So the way we create normals for this that we can use is, let's create a point node. We're going to create point old. We have that. We're going to go to force, and we're going to add an edge force. So we'll add that there. And when we middle mouse button click on it, we can see that we have the edge direction. That's the float that we need. I'm going to go to an attribute VOP. Add that in here. Jump into the attribute VOP. And let's create some normals. So we need to first bind the parameter. And it was called edge underscore dir for direction. And then the edge direction, we're going to connect that into the normals. So now we should have a normal direction here. So if we adjust the height now, it shouldn't flip. And it doesn't flip for us. That's great. It's a little bit of an issue with the rotation, so we'll take a look at that now too. But let's get the look working for us right now. So it's creating, it's slightly steeper than what we had on the other one. So we'll make adjustments. Let's look at the roof tiles here. We have this. And then we'll add an offset here, so +1. And whatever that value is, it will change. So let's take that, and then we can change that here. And also part of it is kind of where it's being created. It's creating it from the origin, so there's going to be some of it going in, but we can actually go ahead and adjust that with the grid. So we have the roof tiles here. And let's visualize that really quick. We basically want the position to be here. So we're going to take the X, copy relative reference, or copy parameter, sorry, paste relative reference into the X and multiply that by 0.5. So let's look at how that copies over to everything. There we go. So when we look at the rotations here, and it's slightly offset, we're going to be creating a frame eventually for this, but that's why. Okay, so that is good for us there. I also want to maybe take a poly extrude, add that here, and then when we visualize it here, we can take the distance and increase it. That will give us the thickness of our tiles for the roof. That's looking a lot better. Okay, so that gets us the shape, and that gives us the tiling. We just need to offset it so that way it's not directly on top of each other. We want like one here, then one here, then one here, so it kind of like zigzags. Basically, we're going to do two different versions of this. So we're going to need another one, but then we're going to set up a group so that way we're doing alternating points. So let's do a group by range. Here, and then here we want to have basically every other one. So we're saying 1 out of every 2. We're going to make that points, and then we're going to say these are our roof tile offset. And then we can select that group. So there we get every other tile. And then let's just visualize it there because we're going to need to change this as well. Copy, paste. And on this one, we're going to need to make a different group. So it's going to go here, and then this one's going to connect into the copy to points. And basically an easy way to change this so that it works for what we need is let's start it offset. So basically when we look at them, we can see that we're getting every other one here. That looks great to me. Now here we have a copy, it's copying everything, and we need to do every other one here as well, similar to what we did with these copy nodes that we have up here. So let's create a group. And on this group, we are going to set it. Let's say this is roof tile alt. We're going to make that into points. Oops. Let's copy that name. That way I don't have to type it out again. I did a regular group. I want a group by range. Group by range, we put that there. Let's paste the name. We're going to make them points. And we're going to say that we're doing every other line. So 1 out of 2. And then we have that. And then let's copy and paste this. This one is going to, oh, but we need to set the group. Did we set the group? We did set the group. Let's see, was it more? Yeah, it was, okay. Cool. So let's set the group. And then here on this one, we're going to offset the start by 1. And then we need to have another copy node. And this one, we're going to connect this group, and then we're going to connect that set of tiles. And let's merge it all together and display that merge node. And we have the alternating pattern. Now, basically, we need to adjust the size of this. So I guess that would be Z. We have the offset there. And then the Y, so that way we get the tiling pattern. There you go. So we have the roof that we want. If we wanted to, we can Boolean off the edges. So that way we can cut off the excess that we have. But that gives us the whole roof shape for right now. I'm going to leave it like this, just keeping it simple. But we did do the Boolean earlier And really, like, if we wanted to, we can kind of just create a box at the end, take the whole height of the whole shape, and then Boolean a little bit off the front and the back. So that's not too difficult. I want to just get the key concepts of everything here. Okay, so now we have this, which is all of the roof tiles. Let's actually create a merge node. Connect that, connect this, and then cut that off. That way we can add a transform. Let's do a transform, and we'll make it -1. Connect that in. That gives us the other side, and let's do a reverse node. The reverse node will flip our normals, so that way we're all good here. And now that we have that, let's add some tiles along the top, because these, to cover the seam from one side to the other. And we have a line here. Let's check this line. I believe it's the height and then the depth. There we go. So we can take information from both of these to create the tiles that we have, that we need for the roof. And we already have the number of points and everything, so that will work out well for us. Let's create another grid. Oops. And these are going to be our roof spine, just because I don't know exactly what they're called. Tiles. These are huge. Let me just copy the ones that we already have. Roof, spine, tiles. We don't need it rotated. Let's delete channels, 0 this out. And we don't need it offset, so let's delete channel, 0 it out. And that is great. We're going to need a poly extrude as well. So I'm going to copy that there, and we get that poly extrude. Let's add a couple bends. So the bend right now, if we look at the capture direction, is going back and forth on the Z. Let's make it on the X. That's good. And then the capture distance, let's make it equal to half of the length on the X. So let's copy this parameter. And on the bend parameter, let's go paste relative reference and multiply it by 0.5. So we can see that the bend is being affected there. If we display that, we should see the controller. There you go. So we'll get ability to kind of rotate that back and forth there. Let's copy this, paste it. Gonna disconnect that and connect it again here. The only difference on this one is that the capture direction, I'm going to make this -1, so that way it goes on the opposite direction. And let's take the bend parameter from this one, the first one, and we'll copy those parameters because it's going to be the same over here. And we'll just do paste relative reference. Okay, So if we go here and we change it, we should get them both bending on both sides. I'm going to take the visualize off just so that we don't have those colors interacting here. And then we have a tile with some thickness, and we should be able to get the bending that we need for the spine. Okay, so now we have, what was it, depth here? Yep. That is those points, yep. So let's do a copy points. These are the lines, and this is the geometry. Should see that it does that, and obviously we have too many points. Let me template this so that we can see the overall house. It lines up with everything that we have here. I just want it to be a little bit, oops, not that one, but this one. Can change this value. Oh no. Hopefully it doesn't crash. Yeah, it looks like it's gonna crash. Hopefully it saves, hopefully it saves. Nope, it looks like it's gonna crash. So this will be the part 1 of the video. I'll get this back up to where it was. There's only a little bit left that we need to do. Yeah, it crashed. Let's wait a tiny bit longer, but I'm sure it crashed. Yep, close program. And I believe it's been a while since I saved, since like I said that I should save. Recent. The house stream, yeah, all that roof stuff is gone now. So yeah, this will be part 1. I'll catch up with the roof and get to the point where we have the spine again, and I'll finish it off. But basically there's just the spine that we have to create, and then the doors and windows. So yeah, I'll be streaming probably later on today to finish that, but this part here probably took me half an hour to get through, so it'll maybe be half an hour, and it gives me a break to do a few things that I need to today before I finish this off. All right, so sorry for the intermission, but I hope you've gotten a lot out of it, and we'll see you guys in a little bit. Bye. Yeah, Philip, sorry. Yeah, I should have paid more attention to saving. All right, see you guys in a little while.